Hello, my name is Lindsay Bistel. I work with the Saskatchewan Health Authority in population health promotion. As part of my role here, I'm also a member of the Age-Friendly Regina Steering Committee. We made this quick video to introduce you to a resource called A Guide for Aging Well in Regina. The guides are useful for individuals and families who live and access services in Regina. Age-Friendly Regina has made a lot of progress and influenced a lot of changes, particularly at the City of Regina since it started in 2018. I would be happy to share more of the history of Age-Friendly Regina and the guide if you're interested, but today I would just like to share some practical information about the guide. The Guide for Aging Well in Regina is an age-friendly tool that was developed in response to feedback gathered through a community survey completed in 2019. It contains information geared to older adults, people age 55 plus, but the contents are useful to many age groups based on individual situations, needs, and interests. Its purpose is to provide information that makes it easier to understand and access different programs and services in our community. Beyond highlighting that a guide was needed, the community's feedback also shaped how the updated guide looks and feels. Specifically, we took the top 4 areas of concern that were identified from the surveys, and they became the focus or the topics of the guide. They are transportation options, housing options and supports, mental health and well-being, and crime prevention and safety. In direct response to the feedback provided in the surveys, you can see that the guides share information about the supports and services available for each topic separately, so the guide is actually a series of 4 parts. The guides are designed to walk people through various situations in an informal way and point them toward the information that is most relevant to them. In a feedback session we hosted, one woman shared that as she read through it, she felt it was talking directly to her, which made her want to read more, and she learned about things in Regina that she had no idea existed, which is exactly what we hoped happened. Others shared similar positive feedback, and of course, we hope that many others will feel and think the same way as they begin to access the guides. As we began the process of updating the guide, we gathered and took other feedback into consideration as well. It was important for us to ensure that the information included is meaningful, and that meant not sharing not only the name and contact information of the organizations and agencies and the services or supports they offer regarding the specific topics, but also what those services and supports look like or what you can expect when you contact or go to the organization. This does come with risk. We know that resource guides are very useful, but less so when the information found inside is out of date. We did make an effort to ensure that for the most part, the services and supports we included were long-term standard offerings. Our plan is to update the guide every 2 years, but even within that time, we know that there will be lots of change. There are other limitations that we unfortunately could not address with the resources at our disposal. One that immediately comes to mind is having the guide available in different languages. We know how important this is, and we're open and interested in pursuing it, but it hasn't been done yet. Who might use the guide? This is intended to provide a good starting point for people looking for information about one of these specific topics or issues, but it's far from exhaustive. However, at least some of the information found in the guides is likely to be relevant to everyone in the city at some point. We did have to set some specific criteria and parameters when determining the content, mostly to keep the size of the guides manageable. For the most part, the guide focuses on supports and services that are technically open to everyone. I say technically because we know that just because a service is available to everyone does not mean that it feels welcoming to everyone or meets everyone's needs. We also included options that are low or no cost whenever possible. Where can you find the guide? We knew it was important to have some paper copies of the guide available, recognizing that not everyone has access to digital information or can navigate it with ease even if they do have access, and sometimes people just don't want to get it online. However, printed copies are also very expensive. Thanks to the generous financial support of the City of Regina, the Saskatchewan Health Authority, and the superannuated Teachers of Saskatchewan, Regina chapter, the committee was able to have 150 copies printed. In order to have as much impact as possible, the printed copies will be distributed to places throughout the city that we know, or at least hope, lots of people will see them, especially people who may require or prefer paper copies. This is where you and your relationship with community members come in. In addition to sharing it with you, other locations include community organizations, health organizations, senior centers and housing complexes, and neighborhood and recreation centers. The community librarians throughout Regina also each have a copy that they can use to showcase the guides to groups that they're meeting with. The guides are intended to stay where they're housed to ensure that each can be used by numerous people. The vast majority of access will be online. We know this isn't easy or even possible for everyone. Library staff have been very supportive of the guide and will be key in its successful use for many. We've been assured that people can get support to access the guides online at any of the local libraries. The fact that libraries can provide both computer access and help finding the information is shared at the beginning of each guide, and all of the promotional material also directs people to the library for support. We have run into some unforeseen technical difficulties, but if you're searching for the guides online or telling people you know to look for them online, instead of searching for Aging Well in Regina, please search for Age-Friendly Regina. Go directly to the Age-Friendly Regina community webpage or use the QR code found on the printed copies, posters, and the take-home ads. All of these ways will get you to the Age-Friendly Regina page where you can scroll down to find the guides. I know that looking through the guides here together is not ideal, but I do want to give you a bit of an introduction so you have an idea of what they look like and how to navigate through them. We hope you take some time to explore them on your own after and share them with the people that you're working with and everyone else you know who may find them helpful. So following this link, I will just bring up the page. As you scroll down the Age-Friendly Regina page, you'll see a description of the guide, and then under that, an image of each of the cover pages. You can open each section by clicking on the corresponding link underneath. Two of the guides, Housing Supports and Options and Mental Health and Wellbeing, are a bit more complex, so we'll start with them. The format of the guide, of each guide, is very similar. So you have the cover page and the inside cover, and then each has a main title page. Oh my goodness. That usually includes some questions or statements that are designed to relate to the reader and introduce them to the information that they'll find inside. This one has questions that include, are you struggling to be able to get around and take care of yourself in your current home? Has there been a change in your life that means you may have to look at different housing options? Housing has two sections and it sets it up so that you can decide where you want to look first. In the bubbles near the bottom, they describe each section. So if you or someone you know is looking for information about in-home supports and services available to help people get the care and support they need while remaining in their homes, you can click on the link here to start in that section if you're online, or go to that specific page if you're looking at a paper copy. The other option here is if you're looking for information about some of the different rental options in Regina, both with and without extra supports and services. We'll just visit the beginning of each section as a bit of an introduction to what's inside. The table of contents also has links and page numbers if you wish to jump to specific information, or you can look through the entire guide page by page. This section shares some of the services that are available to directly help people stay in their home as long as possible. It includes information on the Saskatchewan Health Authority's intermediate care services, home care services, Aboriginal home care team, home care treatment center, some information on how to find private home care services, and some of the community programs that exist. The housing options area shares information about a variety of different types of housing that are available. Before each list of options, you'll find a box with a description of what type of that type of housing, who can access it, and a few important pieces of information that are good to know. The types of housing that are listed include lower cost housing options, subsidized housing, affordable housing, and co-op housing, as well as housing that is not considered lower cost, but we felt was important to include. Housing that offers supportive services like enhanced housing or assisted living fall in here. A section illustrates how to search for and where you can find some details about personal care homes because there are simply too many options to list. And lastly, this area includes a section with information about long-term care homes. The Mental Health and Wellbeing Guide is the largest, most complex document of the series, and it has 3 sections. Similar to the housing guide, depending on where you are and how you are feeling, you can choose the section you want to go to. We organize this guide by supports and services that can help you to boost your mental health and well-being if you're doing okay but would like to get more involved and connected, can help to rebuild your mental health and well-being if you're struggling and want some support to feel better. And we also include a section on how to deal with a mental health crisis. Boosting includes places in the community where you can go to connect to others and socialize, be physically active, take a class or a workshop, volunteer, and take part in a religious or spiritual service or ceremony. I want to show you just a taste of what this guide holds. So I am going to go to the boosting area and the table of contents here. Note this key, we'll be talking about it in a second. So I'll just go to the Regina Public Library so you can get an idea of what's inside. You'll notice the icons near the heading that I just pointed out on the title page. This is the only section in the guide that uses them, and they're intended to visually show the reader what types of services they can expect at that service provider. In the Regina Public Library's case, it offers socialization or connection, some physical activity opportunities, learning through resources, workshops or presentations, and volunteer opportunities. To the right, you will see that the services are free. Many of their standard offerings are listed in print here, and there are links to their full list of services as well as programs and events because those change often. To borrow items, you need a library card, so a link to the application form is also included. Basic information like the location of each branch and the contact number round this listing off. The rebuilding section shares information about some of the places that can help us rebuild or strengthen our mental health and well-being. Staying true to the parameters we set, the options for support listed here are all free, low cost, or can be provided on a sliding scale depending on a person's situation. There are counseling options provided in person, by telephone, and online, as well as some less formal groups. We included a section at the end that guides a search for paid supports if that's an option. Dealing with a mental health crisis includes a description of what a crisis might look like and a couple of defining statements that help people understand which resources are most appropriate based on the situation. Mostly that's determined by whether or not someone is putting themselves or others in danger. We know that if someone is experiencing a crisis, they're most likely not looking for this guide to figure out what they can do in the moment. But our hope is that people read through it and are aware of the signs of a mental health crisis, as well as some of the supports that are available. So if someone they know is experiencing a crisis, they know who they can call to help ensure that everyone stays safe. Transportation is actually a new section that was added during this update. It begins with information about driving as we age, resources like the Mature Driver Guide through SGI, the Mature Driver Refresher course from the Saskatchewan Safety Council, and a link to a new resource that provides information and answers questions about driving and dementia. The guide has quite a bit of information about the City of Regina Public Transit, both conventional and paratransit, including fares and pass options, the Affordable Access Program, and route planning. Then it flows into options for taxi cabs and similar services, those that provide a ride only, and transportation that comes with additional optional support. One of the other pieces that we have heard back is that people really like and appreciate the fact that when we have a link, most often it goes directly to the information that you are looking for about that. So if it's, for example, a link about fares and passes for the City of Regina Transit, when you click on the link provided, it goes directly to there, not to the general City of Regina page where you then have to search for and find the information yourself. It's just straight to there. And that was something that we heard people liked about the guides. Last is crime prevention and safety. This is such a vast topic. In order to narrow down what to share in it, we simply used what had been shared in the previous version of the guide and added some meat to it. This one starts with 2 stories or illustrations of how abuse may look and a bit of a definition of the different kinds of abuse, then shares various supports and resources that are available. For the rest, we mostly share where to find helpful, credible information, information about wills, power of attorney, adult guardianship, and frauds and scams. Connected to frauds and scams, it finishes off by sharing some supports and services and resources that people can access if they want more information about a certain company or if they've been a victim of a scam and are wanting to report it. And that is a whirlwind tour of the guide for aging well in Regina. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact me at any time. My contact information, as well as the electronic versions of the posters and smaller take-home ads, are included in the email this video came with. Please feel free to share this video and the promotional material with anyone you think might be interested or benefit from having it. Thank you for your time and have a great day.